Hello friends, my name is Ryan. I'm going to tell you a story named The Man Who Lived Without Money, Mark Boyle's Experiment, which is a very amazing story full of twists. So let's start. Once upon a time, in a small village in the heart of the UK, there lived a man named Mark Boyle. Mark wasn't like the other men in his village. He didn't have a house filled with fancy things, and he didn't carry around a wallet packed with cash. No, Mark had decided to do something extraordinary, something that would shock the world. For years, Mark had been living a comfortable life, working a 9-to-5 job, earning enough to pay for his daily needs. But as time passed, something started to gnaw at him. He realized that all the money he earned didn't bring him true happiness. In fact, it seemed to drive him further away from the things he truly cared about: nature, personal connections, and a life of freedom. So, he made a decision that would change everything. Mark Boyle made the radical choice to live without money. At first, it seemed impossible. How could anyone live in the modern world without money? After all, money was the backbone of society, the fuel that kept everything running. But Mark was determined. He began his experiment, cutting ties with the monetary system and living off the land. No credit cards, no bank accounts, and no wages. He would rely on the kindness of others, barter for what he needed, and find creative ways to survive. His journey wasn't easy. He faced countless challenges. The first few days were a blur of confusion and anxiety. Without money, Mark had to rethink everything he had taken for granted: how to eat, where to sleep, how to buy the simplest of things. But slowly, something began to shift inside him. He started to see the world differently. Without the constant chase for money, he noticed the beauty of the world around him: the lush green fields, the crisp air, the sound of birds singing in the morning. But the real twist came when he discovered how much people were willing to help. Strangers offered him food, clothes, and shelter. Neighbors shared their knowledge and skills, teaching him how to live sustainably. Mark felt more connected to the world than he ever had before. As his experiment continued, Mark faced deeper challenges. There were days when he had nothing to eat, and nights when he had no place to sleep. But in those moments of hardship, he learned to trust the world and the people around him. The more he embraced the unknown, the more he found that life could be abundant, even without money. But the question started to creep in. Was Mark truly free, or was he just another person bound by the rules of society, even in a different way? Was his experiment a sustainable model for the future, or a temporary escape from the reality of modern life? Mark began to question everything he thought he knew about happiness, freedom, and survival. And just when Mark thought he had discovered all the answers, something unexpected happened. One cold winter's night, after months of living without money, he received an invitation that would change everything. The invitation came from a well-known journalist, asking him to share his story with the world. Mark hesitated. He had spent months avoiding the spotlight, living in the shadows, but this opportunity was too big to ignore. So, he agreed. When he arrived at the journalist's office, he was greeted by a crowd of people eager to hear about his life without money. The journalist asked him, "What have you learned, Mark? Is living without money the key to true happiness?" Mark paused. He had thought about this question many times, and yet, he still didn't have a clear answer. His journey had taught him so much about life, but the one thing he had learned for sure was that the pursuit of money wasn't the answer to happiness. There was more to life than material wealth. There was connection, freedom, and the beauty of living in the present moment. But as Mark sat in that room, surrounded by people eager to hear his story, he realized something else. Despite everything, people were still obsessed with money. They wanted to know how to live without it, but they were also afraid of giving it up. Mark understood now that his journey wasn't just about living without money, it was about helping others question their relationship with it. The night ended with a standing ovation, and Mark left the office feeling both proud and conflicted. He had shared his story, but deep down, he knew his experiment wasn't just about rejecting money. It was about finding a new way to live, one that was more in tune with nature, community, and the simple joys of life. As Mark walked back to his small cabin in the woods, he realized something else: that his journey was far from over. The world was changing, and he was a part of that change. But the road ahead was uncertain, full of twists and turns. He didn't know where it would lead, but he was ready to face whatever came his way. So, friends, this was the story of Mark Boyle, a man who decided to live without money and change the way we think about wealth and happiness. But the story doesn't end here. We all have the power to question the systems that control our lives and to find our own path to true freedom. What would you do if you had no money? What would you choose to value in your life? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Keep wondering, keep questioning, and always remember, the journey is just beginning. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay curious and keep searching for the truth. This story is filled with suspense and unexpected twists, all in simple language and a native storyteller's tone. What do you think?